And we're back, people. We are back, your favorite. I've been saying that for 3 years. So if you think I'm lying by now, I don't know what's your problem, Spike Lee. It's your fault. Your favorite sports podcast roaming the airwaves, rolling with Ramos, is back. I happen to be the one that holds the last name Ramos. I would like to specifically thank my daddy for that one. Mike Ramos on the sweatshirt, Mike Ramos in heaven. I can't believe this week made 2 years without him, but you know, he doesn't need to be here with all that's going on in 2020, but I miss him dearly. Episode 105. 105 of them things. You know, it's crazy because as we was trying to get to 100, it was easy to say 88, 89, 90, 70, 60. It's a lot to say 100 and something. Last week, we paid homage because it was an emphasis on the 4, because, you know, we named the shows after the person that wore the jersey. This week, you know, we taking a step back from it because it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. I mean, if you've been on the East Coast, you've seen the snow that we just encountered. You know, I'm thank God that they shoveled my walkway because the ice was getting real. But anyway, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. It's beginning to look like a lot that the NBA is back. So this is You're Rolling with Ramos. The NBA is back. Special, and you know, never to be outdone because he is my partner in crime. This is our last show of 2020, Tristan. You do not have to hear me bugging you because you say I'm bossy. I believe it, but you don't have to hear my voice any longer until the next 2 weeks when I see you in January. As always, you know, I'm nothing without you because you are the star. Tristan.
Oh my gosh. What's going on? What's going on? Happy to be on here. It is the last show of the new year, so we definitely go out with a bang. And of course, with the NBA returning, what better way to go out than to talk about basketball? So I'm excited. I'm excited for the guests that we got here. So let's get this going.
We're playing basketball. You know, if I'm dating myself, I never knew who sang that song.
A little bit.
Somebody help me. But anyways, I love the song.
Curtis
but,
Blow.
Say it again.
Boom.
Curtis Blow.
And
I'm dating myself for knowing that.
But you know what's funny? I know so many songs. No, I'm a big oldie but goodie. My dad was a big stylistics fan, whisper fan. I know all of it. But some stuff I just know and then don't know that I know it. But anyways, you hear his voice because he answered my question. I couldn't talk basketball. I finally had his people call my people. I'm glad we finally put this together. It took too long. Big staple in the National Association for Black Journalists Convention. I had the pleasure of talking with him, meeting him, being in his presence for so many years. That conversation on Mellow, look how far it took us. He's back, baby. But anyways, he is one of the best in the business, a legend. He's undefeated, and he works with Undefeated. Senior NBA writer for ESPN's Undefeated. You see him, Marc. I'm not going to ask you what the J stands for, but Marc J.
Oh, you could ask me.
You're rolling with Ramos. What is it, like John?
It's actually, when I was a kid, I used to tell people Joe Mama. When I was a silly little kid, but no, it's Joseph.
Oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
So
but
when
you're
I
rolling.
started, I'm rolling with Ramos. I like that sweater. Explain the sweater to me.
My dad, when he passed away 2 years ago, and I wouldn't be who I am today without him and his sports prowess and his knowledge of the game. He passed it down to me, and that was one of the things that we held forth. This is actually, I'm gonna hold it up a little bit more. This is a picture of him when I found a whole binder of him in his old playing days when he passed away. It was actually a picture of me in it. So I assumed that he wanted me to have it one day. But this is him in his hometown of Bridgeport, Connecticut. He played for the Central Hilltoppers. He played under Tom Penders, if anybody's familiar with him. They went 22 straight and lost in the chip by 2. And that was one of the best Central Connecticut teams ever in the game. A whole bunch of good people coming from there. And he was a part of that team, Mike Ramos. I made him the logo, and we actually sell these. So,
okay, I might have to get me one.
Yes, you do. And send me a picture.
All right.
It is.
Let me know. You know how to reach me. We can send you one.
All right, cool.
But I only got you for how long I have you. So, are you ready to get into this thing?
You tell me. You got the energy. You tell me what you got.
With that said, on November 10th, the NBA released a statement. The NBA Board of Governors has unanimously approved the following adjustments. Number one, the 2020-21 season will begin on Tuesday, December 22nd. Number two, each team will play a 72-game schedule. And number three, free agent negotiations will begin on November 20th at 6 p.m. Eastern time, with signing starting at 12:01 Eastern Standard Time on November 22nd. Therefore, like I said, the NBA is back. A lot wondering, Mark, if this was the proper timeline of returning, especially one that involved having a full season. I know our season was shortened last year, and we had to do what we had to do to get back into the swing of things. They decided to get the ball rolling in November and having tip-off around holiday season 3 days before Christmas. Normally, this is the time of year where we're like halfway in the season and it gets good, and you see those games on Christmas and you're looking like we're getting ready to get towards the playoffs and you're feeling that heat. And interestingly enough, this is where it's starting. This is the starting point based on the circumstances and what the NBA had to work through and filter through. Do you feel the timeline for the comeback after such a condensed season prior is appropriate?
You know what? I don't know if anything's appropriate in a pandemic. I think it is just a sign of the times. I was in the bubble. I was there at the beginning, and I was there to the last game. And I'm tired as a journalist, but I have a job. And I have a lot of colleagues that have lost their job during the pandemic. So if they're telling us that basketball is starting as a writer, I will be there the best way they will allow me to be there. So no, it's not ideal, but it's interesting because it depends on what team you're talking about. Obviously, there were two teams in the finals that had a short time off, being the Lakers and the Miami Heat. But there were also 8 teams that didn't play in the bubble. So when you talk about the Atlanta Hawks and the Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers and the New York Knicks and the other 8 teams that weren't there, they haven't played since March 11th. So for them, they're like, chomping at the bit to be back. Whereas, and then also I would say 22 to 30 teams didn't play past like August 31st.
Right.
So there are a lot of teams that, while it is short, it depends on what team you're talking about. So for a Lakers, for a Boston, for, a Denver Nuggets, obviously the Heat, like it's short, but for the majority of the league, I think they've had a pretty respectable, if not great, amount of time off. So it's I think it's, to answer your question, it's kind of mutually exclusive to the team that you're talking about.
When we talk about the bubble, and this is the part where we go inside it, and because you firsthand, as you just said, you were able to be inside of there. All we could do was watch it from the sidelines. How was life in it? How was trying to maintain the operations of sports in such an environment? What did you see as far as the preparation, both body and mind? Because people tend to forget when you're in a pandemic, you're trying to play a sport, you're isolated from your family, you trying to cover it, and you're isolated from your family. It's this, people have forgotten the psychological toll that can take on you. And then now you're presented with the fact that you got to put that behind you and you got to work. Yes. Talk about what the players and you had to go through to get yourself together, body, mind, and soul. The virus on top of social injustice, being isolated, having to compartmentalize all of that, trying to do the right thing, dealing with sports. Is it take us into that, and is that an experience that you will never forget? How does it rank as far as your experiences in your career?
I've attended sporting events all over the world. I've covered the Olympics. I've been to with the Denver Nuggets to a military camp in Bosnia. I've I've gone to on a private jet with Tony Parker to Monaco. I've done a lot of interesting things. I don't know if anything's more interesting than being in a bubble for 90 days. It to me was the safest place on earth. We were getting tested every day. Everybody inside of it was getting tested every day. Even the employees who lived on the outside were getting tested every day. In terms of mentally, personally, I think I used my minored in psychology, so I made sure that I did things or created an environment that made it more comfortable for me. That was when I got there. I called people that were there already. I'm like, "How's the room accommodations?" And they're like, uh, "Man, they gave me two beds. They gave me two queens." So when I got there, and I'm a 6'6" big dude, I'm like,
Mm.
"I need a king bed." And they're like, "Well, I see your reservation, and you had two doubles." I said, "I need a king bed." And they're like, "Well, it's going to take you about 45 minutes to an hour." I'm like, "Well, I'm be here for 3 months, so I'll wait." So I waited. Um, I'm a big wine person, so I brought a wine suitcase. As crazy as that might
Nice.
sound,
Mhm.
I bought a wine fridge, so I have my wine. That's my I guess my little vice. My mom sent me a toaster oven, so a lot of times the food that we had, I think for the media, like the players complained about the food, they had it 10 times better than us because they had restaurants they could go to. We did not. They had private chefs cooking for them. We didn't. Their money was a lot larger than us, so there was takeout that you could order that was had a $45 delivery charge.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh
Players could get that. We wasn't getting that,
Mm-hmm.
So most of the meals that we were eating were like these, I call it convention food, which was there. So a lot of times, I would, instead of letting the food defeat me or what they had, I was like, all right, I'm gonna get these convention eggs, but I'm gonna put them in the toaster oven and make them taste better. Whether it was putting ground pepper on it or asking them for turkey bacon to go alongside it, and so I made the best of the situation, even though my stomach probably wasn't happy with eating that convention food on a daily basis. But also, I'm a big coffee person. I made my own coffee. I grinded my own coffee beans and made my own coffee because I love coffee. Just
Nice.
a bunch of little things to make sure I was happy. And then the gym situation there, like you got to work out. I it got there were a couple situations there where you would hear some of the workers who had tested positive, rumors that they had tested positive for COVID, had been working in the gym. And they kept changing the times where you can work out for 30 minutes and then they're going to close it for an hour, all this weird stuff. I'm like, something ain't right in the gym. So I started riding a bike because they offered us bikes. And I begged my bosses at the Undefeated I'm like, hey, ESPN's owned by Disney. We're on a Disney property. Can y'all just get me my own bike? And they were able to get me. It was a raggedy bike, but it worked, man. So I got my own bike. They were calling me Debo in the bubble because they saw, I was riding my bike everywhere. But the bike was it was mentally great, and I have since bought a bike since I've gotten home and ride every day. And then I also went started. It was either I tried to get as many hobbies as they allowed me to have. So you had golf, or you also had fishing. So I took up fishing in a bubble. So every Sunday, I I would look forward to getting up and going fishing. And they have these beautiful lakes on the Disney property that they would take us to until the team started like dwindling down, and the team wasn't staying at the hotel that had the fishing anymore. But I learned how to fish in the bubble. And so my
Wow.
thing was complaining wasn't going to change anything. Like,
yeah.
what could I do to make the environment fun, get my exercise, get some mental relaxation. Because if you just sat and watched, wow, the game of basketball is beautiful and I love it, and the environment was amazing. Going from covering the game one of the Eastern Conference Finals between Miami and the Celtics to walking 5 minutes to another gym and seeing game seven of the Clippers and the Nuggets. Like, that's crazy. Like, but that was the environment that we were in. But I made sure from a mental standpoint, I was good. In terms of just being there and the social justice movement, man, I'll never forget those 3 days that they went away from basketball when the Milwaukee Bucks decided not to play and the players realized how much power they have. And I hope they don't forget that strength that they had in knowing that, okay, if something happens, yes, let's band together and work for change. And they had their work stoppage for 3 days, and it ended up affecting the election because they were able to get all the NBA arenas to have people vote. So that was like beautiful to see. So to be at a place where on the court it said Black Lives Matter on the court, and to see players have jerseys that had social justice messages, even white players, even international players, where it was in different languages. It was just it was beautiful to see, touching to see. It like brought me to tears the first time I saw it. First game I went to, and I don't know that hopefully we'll never see anything like that again. But to say I'm part of the bubble alumni and to know directly what it was like, man, I'll never forget that. And that's something like a patch that I have proudly, that I could always say that I was there and actually know what it was like.
We want to also shout out Malika Andrews for all her good work in the bubble too, because we all know Malika. We all are fans of Malika, and she did an outstanding job. And you know what it sounds like?
You know what? Let me tell you a story. When you see her, you tell her. You know, for anybody listening, she was the queen of the bubble. Now, this woman, I actually think she really, really enjoyed it, because she lives in New York, and when the pandemic started, New York was hit as hard as anybody, and she went from being by herself to being amongst a group. But she was going to restaurants and getting hooked up at restaurants that nobody else could go to, and had access to like all kinds of stuff. I'll let her get on the show and explain it. I ain't gonna put all her business in the street, but I don't think she wanted to leave. I think she was really, really enjoying it. And then plus the fact we were getting tested every day, I think meant everything to her. But she blossomed into a super duper star during those 3 months. Did some phenomenal work. I've known her since she was in college, and she's a unicorn. She's special. So I hope that everybody embraces what they're seeing from her, because she's a budding icon.
Funny thing about this, I texted Malika, in the new year, have your people call my people too, because we was trying to make this connection, and she's so busy, we couldn't make it work. Thank God for you, though, because I was trying to have her on too. Hopefully we can make this happen in the new year. I would love to connect with her. She's such an awesome person. Speaking of Malika, as of December 2nd, a tweet by Malika Andrews of ESPN, 48 players have tested positive for COVID-19. The NBA announces in a press release 546 players were tested from November 24th to the 30th as part of a league-wide testing protocols as teams prepare for training camp. As we know, we're in that now. Teams have started playing. Now we're going to go outside the bubble. And we got to talk about the health issue that's going on there. There will no longer be the strictness of that bubble. One NBA player tested positive in the NBA last year, and the commissioner said, stop. No, because we're not going to have anybody else testing positive for this. It only took one player, and they shut it down. Of course, at that time, the coronavirus was still new. Nobody knew what it could do. We were still finding out all these new things, these new loopholes, and being scared about it enough made you just want to shut down and not have to deal with it at all. It was unknown. Guys like Karl Anthony Towns talks about the death of his mom and how he has been taking the responsibility of keeping his family safe. He's very emotional as he took the floor the other night in his first season without his mom being there. The health is a big concern, Mark. The NBA is dedicated to having a full NBA season. It's saying that it wants to do this in its entirety this time around, at which they are rejoining the world in a sense, because you just spoke about how it felt like leaving the country and coming back. You're rejoining the world. We're watching a league like the NFL just go by as days go by, as they're figuring out. They're basically saying, we know you're going to get it. Once you get it, you test positive, you go take care of yourself, you quarantine, you stay out of it, and you come back. Every time we turn around, the Ravens have more players that they're just testing now. Every time you turn around, it's a new epidemic for each team, and new outbreak, new postponements. They've continued to let the show go on. The NBA, with all this in the sports, and kind of it's been on the cutting edge of safety in the prototype of getting as close to right as possible. We know a lot more about this virus. They know a lot more about the virus and what to expect. There is no bubble. Is this going to be a recipe of disaster? And we find the NBA falling into lines as far as other leagues like the NFL. Will they have to shut it down and see that it's not as easy as they think it is? Or will they be able to handle it? And Tristan, you can follow after them.
Oh, that's a really good question. I wonder how soon will the players be offered a vaccine? How soon they'll be offered it, or if they want to take it. I know that they're putting some really, really strict rules on the players in terms of what they would like them to do or not do in their free time. But what are you going to do? Have somebody put something on their ankle? And so all it takes is one guy, one employee not to follow those hopes, and things could go wrong. So I'm cautiously optimistic and also scared.
Yeah.
About, and I think another scary thing, it's not uniform. When I go to a Golden State Warriors game, I will be tested before I walk into the building. I won't have access to the players. No media will have access to any of the players anywhere. But then when I go to the Pelicans game tomorrow night, they're letting 700 fans in, and there won't be any testing of the media. We still won't have access to the fans, but being in an indoor space with like 800 people was a little frightening to me. You know what I mean? So I hope the answer is, man, they somehow got through this unscathed. I'd probably be surprised if such happens. I just hoping for the best, not expecting the worst, praying that there won't be worst. But in this situation, you said it before, we're more educated now than we were then in March 11th, but we're still learning things, it seems like, daily. So I really wish they could go back to the bubble, but it's just from what I hear, it's just too expensive to do for 30 teams. So
right on. Tristan, I need you to follow up on this. And then Mark, I want to get your thoughts on this too, because I'm going to drop a bomb on him that's extra that I'm going to need your thoughts on it too. And staying in the true form of the undefeated, if we're talking about 70% of Americans have to get this vaccination for it to even look like it could possibly work. When we talk about the percentage of the NBA, we look at our skin. And when we're looking at this vaccination and getting it or not getting it, and what the percentage of people that are scared to get it or saying, okay, right on, they're going to get it, it has a lot to do with the racial divide of it. Because us as Black people, we weren't trying to get the flu shot. I've been 2 years
I got it.
straight. Yes, I've been 2 years straight of getting the flu shot, and the doctor
and I feel better.
Yes, the doctor had to make me get it. What parameters do those things fall into place? Half this league, if not all of this league, if not all of the players if not the biggest one that makes this league, and the king, and LeBron James makes this league, is African American. We also have to think of the health of our brothers and sisters. What does that make of is there any rumblings going on in the NBA circle about whether or not they're going to get vaccinated or not? Will there be a penalty if they don't get vaccinated? What does that mean for us in this league?
Is that Tristan? Tristan, you want to weigh in on that first?
Yeah, sure. I can do so. So I am interested in hearing, with these vaccinations coming out, I am interested in hearing what the NBA policy is going to be for players as far as taking the vaccine or not taking the vaccine. I'm pretty sure there are players that don't want to take it because they're human. I think that's the thing that people we tend to go away from, is the fact that we look at them as such incredible athletes and professionals, but they are human at the end of the day, and they have their own feelings and their own thoughts in regards to, vaccinations and things like that. I do believe that there are some that don't want to take the vaccination. Now, just like you touched on, Mikkel, now we're looking at who would those people be. It's one thing to say if a rookie came out and said, well, I don't want to do the vaccination. It's a whole other thing if LeBron James says he doesn't want the vaccination. People are going to listen to that, especially someone at his caliber. Even someone like Kyrie Irving. I feel like Kyrie Irving might be the person that probably publicly say, I don't want it, based on, what he's been talking about thus far already. So we're looking at that as a concern. Are there going to be policies that's going to, punish, in a sense, a fine or something if they don't take vaccinations? I think those are all parameters that you have to think about in regards to the NBA, in regards to the players. And, with COVID, do we even really want to take the chance and not do it? Don't you want to put yourself in a position that the season can continue? Because unlike the NFL, some of the, they've already reduced the season with the games, but you might have a couple games that are back-to-backs. You might have a couple games that are like maybe 2 games in a week or so. Now, if someone like, God forbid, and of course, knocking on wood over here, if someone like Kevin Durant catches COVID and has to go into COVID protocol, there's a chance he can miss like 3 games. It's different from the NFL, where it's like you get COVID, there might be a chance that you might be able to play this game. You might miss 1 game. But it could be like 3-4 games that a superstar could miss because they had COVID, and now that plays a part with an already condensed season as far as playoffs
in
things
the
like that.
playoff parameters and
Exactly.
standings.
So it's so many. I feel like even more so than the NFL, the NBA being outside of the bubble is more risky for the NBA because there's so many things that can cause a domino effect that could just change the entire landscape of the seeding for playoffs. And like I said, with a condensed season, there's less room for error. An 82-game season, you see some teams are like, some teams, they're like, we could probably coast this game. We don't gotta, we ain't gotta worry about that. We could sit some of our superstar players. With this condensed schedule, almost every game counts, really. So you can't afford for that to take place. So I'm interested in seeing, like I said, with the vaccinations coming out and everything, I'm interested in seeing if there's going to be pushback from the players. If they are, who are the players that are going to push back, from that? And then how does Adam Silver and the NBA respond? And there's also, the Players Association. There's a lot of conversation that has to go on between these two entities to figure out how this is going to work. But there's so many. I'm so nervous, and I'm right there with Mark Spears. Like I'm praying that it can go well so we can keep our season. But I'm so nervous because there's so many domino effects that can take place just off of one positive, either from a player or from the staff.
I hope the NBA is not feeling themselves because you have one bubble situation and it works so perfectly and everything's fine. You couldn't even get your mistress in a bubble. That's how strict they were in a bubble. But at the same time, this is whole different. Mark, how we feel about it?
It's going to be a personal choice, I think, from every player, employee, coach, general manager, and so on that are on the team. And so there are probably guys that would do it right now, and there are probably guys that are like saying, I wouldn't do it in 10 years.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that's going to be interesting, is to see how it plays out. I interviewed a player recently and wanted to ask if they were going to take the vaccine, and a PR person stopped me from asking that question. So yeah, it will certainly be an interesting situation. I think also a private situation. I'm curious to see like how many players are for it, how many are against it, how many even tell you if they did take it or not. Shoot, even in my own family, we've been debating about, what to do. And I have a lot of medical people in my family, and I have also a lot of medical friends who are like, hey, man, it's 95%. That's pretty strong. But then I have other medical people in my family like, we usually don't know the effects of a vaccine for about 10 years. Like, you know what I mean? Like, usually you need 10 years of testing to know. So it's one of those situations where you kind of feel like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And then the NBA is also in a precarious situation where if the NBA players are getting it before medical workers, if they're getting it before teachers, if they're getting it before police officers, firemen, maybe they risk some criticism, some ridicule, as to why is this sports league getting it before our healthcare people, before our teachers, before our law enforcement. And so there's certainly that touchy part of the whole situation there as well. So yeah, I mean, this is certainly a fluid situation. When you have owners like the owner of the Clippers who could probably buy all the vaccinations for his whole organization and not blink an eye. Same with the owners in Golden State and Brooklyn. There's a lot of owners at the league that could buy it for their teams. I wouldn't be surprised if such is the case because, to Tristan's point, you want to win. You don't want your guys to get sick. So how can I help this situation? Hey, guess what I got today? The vaccine is here. Less people sick, no people sick, more games you win. Maybe a team that wasn't supposed to be that great. Well, since nobody's sick on their team and they can all play, they're going to have more success. So it's an odd, scary, fluid situation. But even if this rich owner is able to get his hands on some of it and bring it to his franchise, there's no guarantee that the players will all take it too. So stay tuned.
All this holistic stuff that we need to do. See, us in America, we didn't do what the other countries are. Everybody's afraid that we're going to get shut down again, but we didn't take the shutdown. I guess this is all going to who was in the leadership of this country at the time. We didn't take the shutdown and shut down. We couldn't stay in the house. People are overseas for years with nothing, and we couldn't do it with technology. And we got to find a way to do it the right way so that we don't have to live with the virus anymore. I'm sick of wearing a mask. I mean, I will say this: in the cold, it gives an extra layer. But I'm sick of putting this
but
mask.
if it's gonna keep me from dying, I'm gonna wear it.
Exactly.
And even if I take the vaccine, I'm gonna wear it. I just I think even when the world is better, because I'll tell you what, since I've been wearing it, I feel less sick.
Yes.
There you go. There you go.
Like usually I would have had a cold by now.
Yeah.
I would have had a little something.
Right.
And it appears to me just by wearing that mask that, especially when you travel as much as I do, and not that I'm doing that now, but before I travel so much or on so many planes or so many airports, going in and out of so many restaurants, it's amazing to me how I could go to a restaurant and just grab a menu and that menu had something that could get me sick. You know what I mean? And now I'm much more cognizant of that. And when this world gets better, there are certainly some things I've learned from that time that I'm gonna probably incorporate into my future and will not care how weird somebody thinks I look. I want to be here.
We all got better. I do
I
hope
agree.
we all got better. I agree with that. The
Yeah.
league does not seem keen on cutting games from the regular season. It's trying to avoid extending the season. It is trying to avoid doing so too far into the summer so it does not clash with the Tokyo Olympics, which was postponed to 2021. We're going to play a little game, fellas. We got to play I played in the bubble versus I didn't play in the bubble. And are the ins and outs of that as different as we think it are? If we're looking at I played in the bubble, I've already know the health concerns. I've had the bubble experience. Some would say, despite the quick turnaround, they know what it feels like because they've played. But we also seen a Jimmy Butler damn near almost peel himself off the court towards the end of that final series and how tired he looked. They know what it feels to play. It does not come with fatigue. LeBron saying he may take time off during the season, knowing how the quick turnaround and breaking down of the season has been. The psychological effects of being out of the bubble. Are they more injury prone than the guys that have not been into the bubble because they are having a continuation of the quickness? They don't have much to adjust to. We have those challenges. I did not play in a bubble. I've been sitting since March 11th, and how hard that could be to want to get your behind doing not only what you love, but knowing what you want to do and having the chance to be in, give your team a chance, being able to do all the normal things you're used to doing. One of the things that these guys did get a chance to do is stay home because normally they wouldn't be home. But at the same time, how will my adjustment be? How much rust will I have to shake off of me? Will I be injury prone? Players coming off of injury from previous seasons, will they be able to get their mojo back in a season where they weren't able to come back sooner than they were? Getting into a strict routine. This might go out to guys like James Harden. You can't go out and party. You got to stick in and stay in it and stay true because you can't be out there with the little babies of the world. You got to play for your team. Because I've been in a world of isolation, I have not been isolated by the bubble. How different is that? So both concepts. I played in the bubble. I did not play in the bubble. Do they share similarities? How different will they be? How will each player adjust to each other? Because now you're two different players.
Well, I look at it like this with I looked at it both ways. So you have the teams that played in the bubble, and then the teams that were in the conference finals and the finals. And you look at the time that a lot of the star players played. I mean, we're thinking about like Jamal Murray, what he did, the warrior that he was. We're thinking of, for the Nuggets, we're thinking about Jimmy Butler. That shot of him trying to score a basket and then leaning over the banister just to catch his breath. I mean, that's just going to be, that's one of the posters for the bubble. We looking at Donovan Mitchell, after the game against the Nuggets, just collapsing on the floor, just the pure exhaustion. Jamal Murray walking back to the locker room, having to take a moment to catch breath. Those things are going to be iconic in our mind. And it's just, you think about the level that they have to play at, the duration of time that they had to play, and then thinking of now, you kind of got to gear yourself back in. Like, they really didn't have any off time. I mean, because even this short period, they probably had a moments to rest, a moments to kind of recoup, but then you kind of had to get back in that mindset, like, all right, I'm about to go play a season, But then you're looking at the players, like you said, that didn't play since March. They've probably been itching, because it's not just the fact that they didn't play since March. But we're at a point where the entire United States of America was locked down. And I was so shocked because I remember there were like early reports of that where a lot of the players didn't have their own home court. They didn't have their own home basket. So a lot of these guys, besides the basic calisthenics, they couldn't really train the way they probably would have trained had it not been for COVID, had they been able to go to their trainer and go to a gym and work out, be in that atmosphere, being focused to that degree. I think it's an adjustment for everybody. I think we're going to see some people that's going to look rusty. I think we're going to see some people that are going to look exhausted. People talk about LeBron when he said that he might take a couple games. So people got to understand LeBron's about to be 36 years old, going into his 18th season. But this is a man that's played in consecutive finals for a greater part of a decade, prior to coming to the Lakers in that first season when he got hurt. So this is a guy that has a lot of mileage body. And now we credit him for how much he spends on his body, being the Iron Man, never really had any serious injuries. Again, knock on wood, but he's still going to be 36 going into his 18th year. He's got to have some kind of pause in between doing the season and potentially going for another, finals run. Because, I mean, honestly, realistically, throughout his career, if LeBron James is fully healthy in the season, 9 times out of 10, he's going to the finals. So it's not just a regular season thing for him. He's in the long haul. So it's, I would want to give some of the players maybe about 3 weeks, just to kind of get their bearings, get some games under them, really get their bearings, because you're battling rust and then you're battling fatigue. It's the two different dynamics that are going to be playing a part here.
Rust, fatigue, and veteranship. How does that work? You're looking at guys like LeBron and guys like Carmelo. How does that work? How will all this work, Mark?
Due to the pandemic, I don't know. Because you don't know who's going to get it. You don't know who's going to be out. I do think that one of the pluses that did come from the bubble was that guys weren't traveling as much. Right. Guys got more rest and there were less injuries. Now you're going to have like some teams that haven't had a lot of rest, so they're more susceptible to injury. I remember at the end of the bubble seeing Adam Silver and saying, "Man, congratulations, y'all got to the finish line." And as difficult as that seemed, I think this finish line that they're trying to get to now is much more difficult. The bubble seemed harder when they arrived than when they left. Now, I think this season is it's just going to be tough. It's going to be tough. It's going to be like the NFL. There are going to be some issues. There's going to be some stars that are going to be out for a minute. And when they get to the end, assuming they do get to the end, I think they'll be more relieved than they even were when they were in the bubble. Because I feel like this is going to probably be the most, as challenging as the bubble was, I think this has the ability to be even more difficult.
How much time do we have left on you? Because I want to have a little fun with you. We got to talk some real NBA. We got to sit on the couch like friends. So how much more I got of you?
Got another 15.
Okay, let's go. Let's the Ramos ringer real quick. And then Tristan, me and you can finish this off. Okay, so much going on this season, so much going into it. Off the bat, Klay Thompson gets hurt. So that the resurgence of the Golden State Warriors and everybody wondering, can they come back into contention when it comes to the Western Conference? Steph Curry, the blue-eyed assassin, has had to sit and watch y'all talking about how Damian Lillard's shot is better than his. Now that's different without Klay Thompson and him tearing his ACL and he's out. How will the Warriors adjust? How will they be able to be competitive? Will they show that they have more grit than people think they do? I mean, these were champions at this point in time. It's not that crazy. John Wall is now a Rocket. Russell Westbrook is now a Wizard. From us being from the DMV, us two up here, we're very emotional about that decision. We're going to see how that pans out. Is Russell Westbrook the only thing that works in DC? Is the fact that he knows the coach. We didn't even know where the hell he was going to go a couple of weeks ago. Now he's going in DC. John Wall has a lot to prove as far as what he can do these last 2 years he's been out, but he's a Rocket. And the Rockets are in shambles, and we don't know what the hell is going on in Houston and what they will be and who are they rebuilding after. Speaking of a Rocket that can't find a destination, you've been there 8 years, and I still don't understand, James Harden, how you can go party with the Kardashian. It's okay. We talk about it for 5 minutes, but the Rockets' problems still have not come to figure out why we're not putting some of this blame on him. He has to get some of the same blame as the rest of these superstars in this league. I'm sick of it. But anyways, Philly might be a destination for him. Hopefully he likes the process, whatever process they've been doing. They've been in the same damn process for years. Hopefully they make it happen. KD and Kyrie, will it work in Brooklyn? They don't want to talk to the media, but guess what? You're in Brooklyn. We're still trying to figure that out. Paul George, 4 years, $190 million. Will playoff P finally show up? Will he be what everybody wants him to be? Will the Clippers get along? Will they overturn of being the kings of LA? Of course, we all know there's one true king. Supermax $228.2 million, the largest deal in NBA history. Shout out to Giannis. And Teto Kuampo, hey, listen, Giannis, it's just like the commercial says, my brother, with all that money you just made. $5 can help anybody in need. I'm the one that's in need. Call me. But anyway, how do we feel about that? He decides to stay in Bucks land. He's going to stay there. A lot of people saying that he wasn't the star that we thought he was. Bradley Beal, Tristan, we heard rumblings that he wanted him to come to Milwaukee and help things out. Christmas Day schedule, last but not least, and I can take a drink of water because this was the ringer. Thank God the Knicks aren't on Christmas Day. Thank God for the God that did that. I get it. It's a story franchise. Get them off of Christmas Day. But anyways, Pelicans, Heat, Warriors, Bucks, Nets, Celtics, Mavericks, Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets. I'm looking forward to Nets Celtics. Hopefully the Celtics show Kyrie that the earth is round. We'll see. You got a lot on your plate, Mark. How is this season? How will it be? What are we looking at?
I'm super excited to see your Brooklyn Nets. I think KD is going to be amazing. I've heard a lot of great things, and from the one preseason game I watched, I thought he was outstanding. So I'm looking forward to seeing the resurgence, and I'm happy for him. He's a really good guy, and I hate that he went through that. I hate to see Klay Thompson go through what he's going through. I do think the Warriors are going to be better than people think. Stephen Curry, watched him the other day, looks like Stephen Curry or old. Kelly Oubre is a great addition. Wiggins, he gets beat up a lot, but he could still give you an average of 22 for a season, like 22, 7, and 4. I think the X factor is I think Eric Pascal is going to be great coming off the bench and could be a 6-man of the year candidate for the Warriors. It's the rookie. It's James Wiseman. I've heard comparisons of Chris Bosh, David Robinson. If he is either one of those two players, that's special. And I've been hearing some great things. So maybe he is the guy that could vault them. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Warriors made it to the West Finals or lost to the second round. They're capable of doing both. I think Phoenix, you didn't mention the Suns. I like Suns are going to be rising. The Suns are going to be really good.
I have it written down. I forgot about it. The advancement of Chris Paul being a veteran on that team. What does that do for Devin Booker?
Well, Devin Booker is quietly one of the most competitive athletes in sports, not just the NBA.
Yes.
There was a game I went to where to me, nobody plays harder than Russell Westbrook. And I think that's going to help the Wizards a lot, even though I think John Wall, I think both of them needed this change. But I remember when being at a game in Phoenix when Russ was chasing a triple-double record, and he was a game away from setting it. And the Suns fans started cheering for Russ to get it. Devin Booker loses it. Starts cursing out the fans, makes like a 4-point play and starts yelling, "This is my house," to the fans. Willed his team to defend Russ, to not allow him get that rebound, to not allow him get that assist, to not allow him to get that triple-double. And I believe the Suns, I don't even remember who won, but the fact that Devin willed his team to not allow him to set the record in Phoenix was one of the most incredible games I've ever been to that nobody saw. Crazy. So I know if you put two of the biggest dogs, barkers, just guys on the same court together, them two, they're going to be a mess to deal with, man. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing Phoenix. I think they're going to be fun. I don't know if I think Ayton will be much better. I'm not sure about their bench just yet, but I really think the Suns will be interesting in a team that Clippers will be interesting too. I'm gonna mess with you. You didn't say nothing about the Clippers either, but
I got it here. I said Paul George. I said playoff P. The Clippers
right.
Can't get along.
Okay,
Will that even work out?
Pandemic P.
Pandemic P. Don't sleep on the Heat. There's a lot of storylines. There's a lot of great storylines this year.
Sleeper
Yeah, I
team.
mean, there's the only team I don't think anybody's probably excited to see is the Knicks and the Cavs, and I'll still watch them. But I think there are on every team there's somebody that I'm excited to watch that says a lot about the talent in the NBA.
The most unproblematic team in the NBA must be the Los Angeles Lakers. 2 big contracts for LeBron James and Anthony Davis this summer. Is there a direct way to the chip, or does it lead directly to La La Land again?
They got to stay healthy. That's the thing. I mean, for them to be off 2 months, not a lot of time. And Anthony Davis had perhaps his most healthy season of his career. Will that continue? Being in the bubble, not having to travel was beneficial to him. Hopefully it stays that way. As you mentioned, LeBron's 36. You know, I wonder when father time is going to hit him. I wonder if Anthony Davis can stay away from the injury bug that has bit him so hard in the past.
Yeah.
To me, that's the Lakers' biggest opponent is staying healthy, not hitting the wall. Because now, from what the roster moves that they have made, this team that they have now is better than the team that they had in the bubble on paper.
I believe so. Mm-hmm.
Miami. Can Jimmy Butler get him back?
Oof. That Eastern Conference is tough, man. I mean, I think he can, but I like the Nets. I really do. But I mean, like the Raptors are still tough. The Celtics are capable of being there. Obviously, Milwaukee has Giannis, and they have a big 3 now. As I mentioned on a previous podcast I was on, it's like an old school WWF battle royal, the Eastern Conference. Like, same with the West. Like, all these guys are going to be in the West is the East is anybody's guess. I definitely think there's a favorite in the Western Conference. The East, like, literally Toronto, Boston, Brooklyn, Miami, Milwaukee. I mean, all 5 of those teams could be there.
He did not say the Wizards.
No.
I was thinking about.
No, I think the Wizards will make the playoffs, but I don't see them as a championship caliber team. But to mention 5 teams as potential championship, like to say that there are literally 5 teams in the East that could make it to the finals, which says a lot about how competitive that conference is.
This last
How do you feel?
controversy. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, how do you feel about Philly with Doc being there?
I'm sorry, 6 teams. Philly.
There you go. I was wondering. I was like,
I felt like I was missing
James
somebody.
Harden. And a potential James Harden. Where does he go?
But you know what? There's a potential James Harden in a lot of places. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up somewhere you're not even thinking about. The one thing is, the Rockets got to take care of the Rockets and not James Harden. They're going to do what's best for them.
Right.
On the flip side, there's I don't agree that the fact that it's public that he wants out is going to kill their trade value. If there's 2 or 3 teams that want him, you just need somebody competing against the other team to raise the value. Somebody's probably going to be desperate enough to make that move. So, I mean, I think the assumption is that he'll probably go east, right? But I mean, what if like a Sacramento was like, look, we want another star so bad. Like, in situations like this, when you got a team that wants young stars,
mm-hmm.
I don't count anybody out. There's going to be a lot of quiet discussions behind the scenes. And I wouldn't be like, just because he has a wish list,
don't mean they got to follow that.
I mean, I got a Christmas list. That don't mean I'm going to get all the presents I want, man.
Yeah.
The Rockets are basically in control. They could do what they want to do. I'm sure Chris Paul didn't expect to get traded to Oklahoma City.
No.
And he did. You know, I'm sure Russ didn't Well, he probably wanted to get traded to Washington, but their stars traded to places all the time that they don't expect to. So, like if I'm Orlando, maybe that's something I think about.
Yeah.
Because maybe, hey, we'll give you Aaron Gordon and
Some
Mo
picks.
Bamba. You know what I mean? Like, I would not be surprised if there's a big surprise in all
So
this.
so one of the dark horse rumors that I've been hearing recently, and shout out to a couple of my guys, Kevin and Steve. We talk about NBA all the time, and one of the things that we were hearing in regards to James Harden was it was a quiet rumor of Philadelphia, you know, possibly thinking of maybe moving Ben Simmons
Oh, that ain't
to
quiet.
get James Harden. Oh, it's not quiet. I mean, how do you feel? How do you feel about that thought of if the Rockets were to make that move we'll take Ben Simmons and give you James Harden? I mean, I feel like that would be probably a match made in heaven, probably for Philly, with Joel Embiid, because you'll have legitimate perimeter threat in James Harden. Yeah. But how do you feel about that?
If I'm Houston, I'd push the button right now.
Mm.
I really like Ben Simmons a lot. I think he and John could be great together.
He needs a clock. Well,
I mean, if you had John Wall, Ben Simmons, and under the circumstances, I like that move. He's an all-star.
Yeah.
So you're getting an all-star for an all-star, and then you're also getting a player that he's more into making others better instead of just scoring points.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's a very versatile guy, and he's younger. I mean, obviously, you'd want some of the other pieces that they have. Perhaps some of the young players they have. Maxey is a guy that Philly has. It's from Houston, right? So I'd probably ask for Maxey.
Okay.
Bring him back home. Get a young point guard that could back up John, or maybe eventually replace John. If I could get if I'm Houston, I could get a package that includes Simmons and Maxey. I'd push that button.
Okay.
It's good to know that we're not looking. A lot of people going to see John Wall going to the Rockets. Like, you've been out 2 years. We don't know what the Rockets are going to be. But hopefully it looks like it's a transgression for him in the second tier of his career. A lot of people saying it might be a little bit of a suicide. We don't know what to expect out of him.
Know what? And I would tell these people this. He's back on the floor. He's been through so much heartache.
Losing his mom.
So he lost his mother. He could play for the G League. Like, just the fact that he is on the floor is a miracle. And my guess, and I can't wait to hear from John, but in a different world where I could talk to him. But I sense something when I hear him talk now. And then he's playing with his buddy Cousins, who's gone through hell too.
Yeah.
Like, that the two of them together, man, like, they just appreciate the squeak of the sneakers, the bounce of the ball.
Yeah.
Just to be able to put on a uniform. So I'm happy for John. I know he misses DC, but he's back in an NBA uniform again and healthy. So don't feel sorry for him. Be happy for him that he's playing.
Well, don't worry, be happy. And we're going to be happy, because unless you fellas have anything to add, the last show of 20 and 20. Peace. We're on a roll. Mark, I can't tell everybody where. It's no point of me telling people where to find you, because unless they live under a rock, there should be.
Hey, I'll take any followers I could get. So please, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Mark with a CJ Spears, Spears. And it'd be, if you're not following me, it would be a pleasure for you to do so. So thank you to you both. Continued success on the show. And happy holidays, happy new year, and let's hope for a better 2021.
Indeed.
And Tristan, thank you. As always, I'll see you in January. I'm going to say it like I say it every week, and I don't care if it does not rhyme. It's still always mine. We will see you in 2020, big 2021. Got big things for you in 2021. I'm gonna say it, and I don't care if it does not rhyme. I'm McKell, like Kevin McKell. See you in the new year. Peace out,
Peace.
people.
All right.